Hello, we are in the fourth quarter, which is why, for all of you listeners who are business owners, entrepreneurs, professionals, I wanted to have somebody to come on and just share with us the importance of having a process for our businesses, or as our guest Sharon Johnson of Trayne51, a standard operating procedures. So I can't wait to share this conversation with you on the upcoming episode of Got Clutter, Get Organized. Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation. I'm excited, as you know, I always am, because today I have a guest. We served on a board together. She's a fellow businesswoman, and we also served, actually, I've been on her LinkedIn profile, and of course, we're friends as well. So, welcome, Sharon Johnson. I can't wait to get in a conversation about how businesses can be more organized in the fourth quarter and beyond. So thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, my friend, for inviting me into your podcast, Get Organized. I follow you. I have taken your books. I have followed some of your tips. My coat closet, as an aside, is so much better in the hallway than it had been in the past. So thank you for having me as your guest.
So before we get started into the questions, I really would like the listeners to learn more, just what made you decide to really start your company and really help the business people really create processes and strategies to, and essentially be more organized.
So I started my company way back in, believe it or not, gosh, pandemic, right? Hard to believe 2020 was that year.
Mm-hmm.
And, launching one in that year, or at least pre-launching and thinking about, where my next career would be. And also thinking, after my kids are all grown and wanting to do something in the next chapter of my life, I thought, consulting was the best way. And also, I feel like I've garnered enough skill set throughout my career. And then I feel like now, I need to venture into something that is of my own. And at the same time, I can lend my expertise to others and be able to help others as well get into a systems process, or just transformation, and bring transformation solutions to them. So that's the impetus of, where I wanted to start my next career. And so it's been a wonderful ride. It's also been an exciting ride. It's also been a nerve-wracking ride, especially for those that own businesses. I think that there's a level of courage that when you start to build your own business, I will say that there are some foundational basics that I would make sure that you have in registering your business within your state, understanding what your state laws are within the businesses, and also, after all the administrative things, what does that really look like for you? So give it some thought. It's not just, I'm going to open a storefront or do something online. Some of us are still an online presence, or both, hybrid. So in that, think about what you have garnered throughout the years, where you can lend your expertise. You might also have left a professional career, and some of the people that you've talked to, you can bring as your client as well and gain their insights. So really think it through, have a vision, have a strategy. I can't emphasize strategy as one of the things that you really want to think about. And then also be agile and flexible, because you will have flexibility as your friend. Things change radically, whether that is within the government realm or within just business realm, within anything, landscape changes all the time. So be flexible and tweak your business plan along the way. What you started is not going to be 5-10 years from now. Technology evolves. We're now into AI. Years back, we never thought we were even going to be here, let alone, further a decade back to even have like a computer. So all the things that happen within the landscape of change, you should also do that as well. So that's where my start is. I started with healthcare. I feel like I'm a graduate of healthcare, but the world has opened up for me, an entrepreneur, that I can't just stick in one industry. I feel like I can expand later on, but for right now, I'm going to stay in the lane where I've been, but hopefully that other lanes will start to open in the way that how practice transformation solutions will start to birth into other areas.
So with that, Sharon, how important is it for us as businesses to really have a process, not only this quarter, but beyond? Because I'm sure in the work that you do, you find, how critical it is to have something in place. Whereas when you go into a practice, you realize, okay, this is the reason why they're having these issues. So, how important is it for all of us, no matter what type of business we have, to really have some type of process in place?
So first thing I think that for me, a key thing, aside from your business plan, you should also have a standard operating procedures, your SOP manual of some sort, right? Even if you start off as a solopreneur and you expand into a team or expand into teams, and as you scale, as you grow, you want to make it where your standard operating procedures grow with you. You also want to have your business plan grow with you. So like I said, what you started off in your mission, vision, strategy, that all starts to change over time. The quarter four is important as a beginning of review, but you really want to start at the beginning. But if we're going to go with a quarter four review, that is a critical time for you to review where you've been when you first started, but also where you're going to head into the following year. Having said that, that's where you're going to review the data, right? Where you started. So in quarter four, provided that you've looked at first and second of the quarters, or first and third really, of seeing what your trending has been like. If there are things that are dipping or there are things that are exceeding in certain areas that you've deemed as your goal, then you want to start reviewing it to say, okay, where are we headed with this? What are we trying to do? Is it just sustaining and maintaining a particular goal, or are we going to change and go into a different direction? But it shouldn't be a drastic change because you've already started to look at some of this data. So it isn't a surprise, is what I'm saying. When you're doing the quarter four review, you should have looked at the first 3 quarters and also add like a 3-year look back period because you want to see that trending. It's not just the current now. There are some things that may be affecting it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's where you've been, which is why a 3-year look back period is important as you're carrying over your data throughout all quarters. So the quarter four is planning. It's seeing where you've been, and also again, it could just be a maintenance or a sustaining of where your goals had been because you were looking to move that needle the following year. And it could just be minor adjustments, and it could be also a major adjustment because let's say if you're looking to grow another sector or another service, you may try to see if there is that room or opportunity to be able to give that service. So it's not just a quarter four, but quarter four is also your planning. It's also where you start to look to see. And then, like I said, compare a look back period, at least 3 years, because you can see you're trending within that time. And then if anything else, maybe a 5 years, but really the 3 year just helps you give your starting point and then seeing where you are. And there might be some small up and down streams that happens, but it shouldn't be like major. And if there's truly a major up and down, then you really need to start looking at that.
Mm. And I like what you said about really kind of just looking not only at your present, but also at your past, because I think a lot of times we don't do that. We keep moving forward, and like you said, it really kind of helps us decide what changes do we need to make. Because in your
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, you might be moving forward with something that you don't need to be moving forward with in regards to a process, a workflow, or sometimes even a service. Because things change. Yes, that may have worked last year and a year before, but because of trends, it may no longer be useful. So thank you so much for sharing that. So you know, what role does really the leadership, and a lot of us in our businesses, we are the leadership, but what role does that play when we decide, okay, in a workflow and a strategy, like what dynamic does that play?
Oh, leadership is vital.
Okay.
If you're in a leadership role, and I also want to just give a brief definition. So there's a difference between leadership and management. Okay, leadership are your visionaries. Leadership are the ones that are going to create the vision for the organization. They're typically very high, very, very above. When I say above, because they're looking at a 50,000 feet, from their organization. Management is your day to day. operations, right? These are the folks that make sure that the wheel functions very well operationally. There are folks that you have put at the helm in management of finances. So all those folks in management are the ones that are held to the day-to-day operations. But leadership is also not only are they visionary, but they also need to support into any transformational change, what they envision as a better system, but also build coalitions within their organization, remove the barriers that is there for their organization, nurture their culture, because leadership does set the tone of the organization. There are some things about leadership culture that goes from top down. And brings that type of culture within your organization, and that thrive, the accountability and the continuous improvement. So leadership is vital. Their support, how they communicate their vision, how does the teams and employees and so on that see their vision and support where they're headed. Clarity goes a long way. There are times when it may not be as clear yet, but communication and how you support your organization, the culture that you're trying to build within your organization. And again, I want to emphasize this too. Companies vary in size and scope and staffing resources. So you're not going to, your vision is going to be relevant to that organization and to your industry, but everyone's going to have a different vision. Everyone's going to have a different way of building out their organization, but their support is vital. Their setting of the tone, the culture, all the things that leadership needs to show within the organization.
I am back. I started to make a cough and I couldn't unmute myself after I finished coughing. But I'm glad that you kind of made a distinction between leadership and management, because sometimes we just get a little bit confused with all of that. So my question to you, Sharon, is somebody who's listening, who's thinking, you know what, maybe I do need to really kind of step back, look at my processes. Look at what I've had going in quarter 1, 2, and 3, but now I'm in 4. Do I need to make some changes before I go into the new year? How do they really kind of start that process? So what is maybe like one thing that you really do?
So before you set any realistic goals, when you're looking at your data driven, which is going to make your decision, first, you want to make sure you have accurate data. You don't want to have inaccurate data because you're going to decide on an information that is not accurate. So you want to be accurate in your information. So before setting your goals, or anything for the following year, as you're looking at the quarter 4, you also would have wanted to have frequent meetings that have whether set bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, right? This shouldn't be a surprise where, oh, we're here at 4th quarter and now we're going to decide what our new goals is for the next year. And oh, by the way, the roof is falling and everything else is caving, and you know what, we might open a new service because I think I hear this is that shouldn't be like, a surprise. It should be where, like I said before, you are tracking it from the beginning all the way through quarter 4. And if you need to mitigate something within the 1st and 2nd quarter, so let's take, for example, if it's a revenue stream, whether it's an upside or downside, we definitely don't want downside streams. But if there is something that you notice that is really a change from previous years, what is that change? And you should start to mitigate that in the 1st and 2nd quarter. Because if it's different from where you were at the beginning of 2 years or 3 years back, what is the change? Then you want to start to look at root cause analysis and bring the people that needs to have the conversation. It doesn't have to be every single team member. So you want to hone into which goal it is that you're seeing that variance, and then start to do your root cause analysis. And it could be, there's a lot of changes that have happened this year, not just for regulatory body, not just what's happening in the government, not just what's happening in your industry. So you want to take a look at those things. You also want to take and see if what else is out there in the marketplace or in any market share, what volatility is out there that's affecting you within your industry. And then have there been any rules change, within how revenue is being improved or not improved, or again, the volatility is going to you got to take a look at the marketplace, and then explore potential solutions. So if you're noticing that there's a dip somewhere within your service, what is happening within that service that is affecting? Are there supply chains? Is there a disinterest within the customer service? Is there something that is in your process that is cogging the wheel? What are some of the things that maybe need to be improved upon? So before you tackle into anything that is a change, you want to look at your data and then assemble a group. And then from that, you want to think about what kind of change or implementation you want to do. And some things you might want to pilot based on what you come up with the root cause analysis, because it may just be a minor adjustment. And if it is truly a big adjustment, then you're going to have to decide whether by the end of this, the year end of quarter four, if there's no change or improvement between your service and there's really something that either your market base or your customers don't want it anymore, or if there's something that they want at another way of getting customer satisfaction, then you want to change in that direction. So I say that second quarter is the beginning of the quarters, and so you want to mitigate that as soon as possible, and don't wait until fourth quarter, because by the time you get to fourth quarter, you're either deciding to no longer have that service, or because you've seen it in the past 2 years that's slowly dipping down, then you want to be like, you know what, I don't want this anymore. There's something here that may not be valuable. It's not worth me changing or implementing. But if it is worth, and you start to see like, oh, maybe next year, if we just make these adjustments, then go for it, and make your changes. So it's really depending on your data.
And I like that. I like that, really just kind of looking at the data, because I think sometimes when we do start these businesses, we get excited because this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to offer things. But then when you start going and you start servicing, then you realize, well, wait a minute, this is not what people want. This is what they want. Or you may have been doing something, and then all of a sudden, for me, I'm seeing my population change because, people were in their 30s and 40s when I started, but now people are looking at retirement, downsizing. So I had to make a shift, or they're taking care of parents. So those are another dynamic. So I really like what you said. So everybody, I hope you were taking notes and listening, just kind of take some reflection. And like she said, bring people in. Sometimes we think as leaders, we've got that big vision. This is what we want to do. But then when you really begin to have conversations with your management, they're like, well, we understand it. But these are some of the things, the statistical things, the financial things that we need to take into consideration before we get to that. We need to do this first. So I like those strategies, Sharon. So one of the things I ask all my guests is how they stay organized. Like, how do you stay organized, Sharon? Whether it's with your time, your space, your life.
So what I started while thinking about that question is that I know it sounds silly, but it's not. Um, Clean your desk.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
like just if you
Yes.
start off with a clean desk, right?
Wonderful. Hmm.
Because it's like a new slate. It's like a canvas. When you start cleaning your desk, you start to see like, oh, I actually even have a desk. For some folks that may have all the things, like, oh, we actually have a desk. Okay, great. Then you start to think about, okay, what else do I need to keep myself organized? So one of the things I like is a calendar. So depending on where you are, whether you like digital, whether it's something that, you still hold on to pen and paper, that's fine. I don't think there's anything that's like, a right or wrong rule. Some people live by whiteboard, or it could be a both. You're a digital whiteboard, things like that. So whatever works for you. So after you've got, your clean desk, now you have all the calendars and where you think you need to be at the daytime, or what are you trying to figure out in your task. I live by block time. I block my calendar for whatever it is that I need to do. If I am in a project, if I'm working with a client, or if I'm doing something that I need to do for myself, and because I need think time, I will block my time. And that's my time, whether that's an hour, 2 hours, or whatever I set myself with, because I need to think about what that strategy is for the day. Where can I, what am I doing, and how am I supposed to be productive? So then the third thing is I choose top 3 priorities. Just 3. I don't want to overwhelm myself.
Wow.
5 at maximum, but top 3. So like, what is high and critical? What is medium? And what is low? And then the low could be the task and be carried over the next day. Because then I also didn't want to I give myself grace. I don't want to be where I just, okay, I didn't make it to the top three, but yes, I did make the top two, or yes, I only did one, and then are the two things can be carried over? And am I at the end of the week gonna complete all the three that I needed? And so it's important to know that you can carry something over, because then you get obsessed about your top three. And because then you say, oh, I didn't quite make that. Oh my goodness, I'm now non-productive. No, that's not necessarily true. I think you just need to evaluate, okay, the top one needs to get done today. It has to be today, no other way. The rest of the two and three, they can be done the rest of the week. So that just gives you, some breathing room, so you don't get to feel like you're overly anxious, or like you're, oh, I'm so lazy now, I didn't even quite get there. So we won't even want to do that. Just get to the rest of the end of the week and you're done, and great, pat yourself in the back,
Yep.
and you're saying you did a great job. And then organizing your files. Believe it or not, your files can be so overwhelming, whether that's paper or digital. You got to start throwing, like, my favorite is Janet's Toss It Tuesday. So, like, she had one where with the books that you have that are old, oh, I'm going to definitely tackle that. But, like, on the files that you've had, there's no need for you to have files for, like, 20 years old. Like, you're not even going to use that file anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say, purge those files.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Set a time to
Mm-hmm.
do it,
Oh,
because if
definitely.
you don't block your time to do it, then you're not going to do it. You're just going to let it sit there. So those are things that are immediate to me, that I do on a day to
Mm-hmm.
day, that's
Mm-hmm.
relevant to what I do. And then, if project deliverables, I have my own self-imposed time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I start to say, okay, this is what I need to get done. Here's what I need to prepare for, et cetera, et cetera. But I would definitely say give yourself grace, for sure, because there's going to be days when you just don't get to the second and third. You might just get to the first one, and that's okay. You got the first one. So celebrate your small wins, and then get to your second and third. And if you see that by the end of the week, you're going to get that done, great.
Mm. That's a nice list, Sharon, and I hope everybody either took notes, or you can always rewatch or re-listen to the interview again. So it's always out there. Well, Sharon, it has been a true pleasure to have you as a guest. So I would like for you to share with the listeners how they can connect with you.
Sure. They can connect with me through LinkedIn. It'll be Sharon Johnson in LinkedIn. Also through my website, www.trayne51.com. And also my email address, which would be sjonsonhsconsulting834@gmail.com. So feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to help you in any practice transformation solutions you may desire. And again, I am in the healthcare space, mostly, helping with independent practices, but like I said, I'm also looking for other industries that some of the solutions we have are pretty vanilla, that can be used in other industries as well.
And of course, those watching as well as listening, I will have links so you can connect directly with Sharon. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for sharing time with us today.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for having me as your guest. I enjoyed the conversation about being organized, because Lord knows we all need our organizations to keep us straight.
Yes, we do. So, what was your takeaway from my conversation with Sharon Johnson? What are you going to kind of review now before you implement anything else into the new year? So, I would love for you to comment below. I would love for you to connect with Sharon. So, please let us know. So, if you, of course, are watching this video, I would love for you to check out actually the audio version, where I've got the Toss It Tuesday, Organizing Solution with Janet, as well as resources to help you stay organized. So until next time, you have a clutter-free day.